I think I thought that people just seeing my weight, they wouldn't see the bad that I thought it was, like, inside. I've been getting quite a few questions lately about people saying, I want to hear about your struggles from the past. I want to hear about all the things that you tried and failed at. You know, after losing weight, 130 pounds, I thought that everything was going to be fixed, that it would solve all of my problems. And the truth is, it didn't. I lost the weight, I feel better, but I still struggle with a lot of things. Still similar struggles from before, but just slightly different. So for those curious, I'm gonna take you through a day in the life of what it was like to be me and be in my head at my heaviest weight, which was 275 pounds. And then I'll go and I'll explain a little bit of what it's like for me now after losing 130 pounds and some of the struggles that I still go through. At my heaviest weight, I was in my late 20s. A typical day for me looked like this. First of all, I didn't really sleep that great. I'd be up about every hour worrying and obsessing about my weight, about food. I had a massive problem with emotional eating, and 100%, I mean this literally, 100% of my day and the thoughts in my head were surrounded by eating in secret, what to eat, what not to eat, my weight, putting myself down, being really negative to myself all day long. And that's all that was in my head constantly. You're fat, you're a failure, you're never gonna do this, you eat too much, now go eat in secret because you should be ashamed for what you're eating. And these things ran in my head all day long and all night long. And then in between those thoughts were other thoughts of, how am I gonna fix this? Quick fixes, go on fad diets, skip meals. So after tossing and turning all night long, worrying about food constantly, I would wake up with an alarm, and the first thing I would think of is, don't eat too much today. And as soon as I would say that to myself, I would immediately set myself up for failure, because anytime I would tell myself not to do something, I would just end up doing the opposite. Have these thoughts, these obsessive thoughts, the negative thoughts all morning long. Then I would make the decision to skip breakfast, or I would grab something like a chocolate bar or a muffin, which would only sustain me for a very short period of time because it's just a quick acting sugar meal. There was no real fiber or protein or anything in it. So I would end up starving. But I thought that doing that or skipping a meal would save me calories and help me lose weight, or at least help me not eat too much. But it was actually counterproductive. And so it would build as the day went on. If I ate a chocolate bar, I'd be beating myself up for eating the chocolate bar. If I skipped breakfast, I would be planning in my head, like, we didn't eat breakfast, so when you get home, you're gonna take this, and this into your room and eat when nobody's watching. And I wouldn't eat a whole lot in public because I was ashamed. I had so much guilt around food and around my body that I was embarrassed to eat in public. So I would eat in secret, and then I would throw myself into all of these fad diets. And I talked about many of them on the channel before, but like I did the cabbage soup diet. I went and paid like $300 to get wrapped in these like wraps and jump on a trampoline to try to lose inches. I took lots of diet pills. I did fad diets where, I could only eat at certain times of the day. I did a prayer diet. I did very low carb diets. I took away whole food groups. I ate pickles and cucumbers, like everything in the book. And all I could see was that my only solution was a quick fix. And once I lost the weight, I would be perfect and everything would be solved. Every day that would fail because I had so much pressure on all of these things, all these thoughts around food and all of my pressure to lose the weight, I was blaming my weight and the food and not seeing there was something much deeper under the surface. And that's the reason why losing the weight eventually didn't solve my problems, because I was only looking at the surface stuff, when underneath, like deep down, the reason why I was so obsessed all day in my head and eating food in secret was because I had a lot of pain and trauma and guilt. A lot of it came from childhood trauma, also trauma around being told that I didn't eat very well, or that my body wasn't perfect. My belly was big when I was young, and I took all of that and I took it on. And then somewhere along the line, I decided that food would be like this coping thing for me. And it was like a subconscious thing. And I think I thought what I was doing was actually helping me. As I started eating more, I was putting on more and more and more weight. And it started very young, like from age 10. And then it just steadily, the weight just kept coming on and on and on until, I became morbidly obese in my late 20s. Finally, I realized, and a lot of this was subconscious, but I thought I was protecting myself. And as the weight kept coming on and on, it became like a suit that I could hide in, because it felt like when I was fat, like I was invisible. Yes, people noticed my weight, but it almost felt like that was it. So any of the things, like I took on that I was a bad person from my childhood trauma and that I wasn't good. And so I think I thought that people just seeing my weight, they wouldn't see the bad that I thought I was, like inside, and it was like a subconscious thing, I realize now, but I think that's what it was. It was like me protecting myself because I didn't want people to see that I was a bad person. Like that's what I thought about myself. And then combined with all like the guilt and shame around food, because I was always told that I ate really bad as a kid because I was a picky eater. But that had to do with trying to control my situation. I realized like I was trying to find some control in a place where I didn't have any. And so that's what happened. So it was like, if I'm overweight, nobody will know that there's 1,000 other things wrong with me. They'll just see the weight and they won't see the other problems. When I was 5, I was really excited to take gymnastics class, but in order to do that, you had to wear these really tight like bodysuit leotards, and I remember mine was like electric blue. I didn't like it before I got to gymnastics, but when I put it on my first day of class, I already was being told that my belly was big from people around me, and I remember I was so embarrassed and I was trying to have fun, but at one point I just went and sat down on the bench, and I remember being told like, if you don't get up and go participate, I'm gonna take you out of gymnastics. And I couldn't say to my mom, like, I'm embarrassed of my body. That's why I don't want to do gymnastics, and I've still never told her that. And that's a funny thing where you're embarrassed of your weight, but then you're using it to hide, and that's what I did. But I think it's like what I said. I thought so bad about myself that I thought at least if they just focused on the weight, then they wouldn't see all the messed up other things inside. Eventually, like when I hit my heaviest weight, my weight was causing me really bad health problems, and I finally had no choice but to look at myself and say, yes, I need to eat less. I need to do something that works, not a quick fix. But it's not just about that. It goes deeper than the food, and that's why I'm having so many problems. And I had to really start looking at why I use the weight as a costume. And I know a lot of you, you're probably hearing my story, and it's very similar to yours. And a lot of you that wanted to hear everything that I've tried and failed at, I know that you've probably gone through the same thing. I'm doing this video because I've been where you are, And I know, like, when I was struggling and I was hiding and I was using food to cope and I was thinking that a fad diet was a solution, I couldn't see past that. All I could see was pick a new diet, follow it, and it's gonna solve all your problems. And some of you watching might be ready to see past that, and some of you might not. But if you hear it maybe coming from someone who's been there, maybe you'll realize that you don't have to treat yourself like that and you don't have to hide. It is very scary. The truth is, like, once you start looking at that stuff, it's very scary to face. But once you start losing weight, it solved some of my health problems, which it might not do for everyone. But what happened was, as the weight came off and my costume came off, the real Nicole was there. There was no longer the weight to hide me. And I had become such a people pleaser because I thought that's how I could get love and validation from all the trauma from childhood. Now everybody was noticing me and I didn't know how to handle it. And so it became a new set of problems because I lost weight. I was proud of myself. I had worked through my emotional eating and I wasn't using food to cope anymore. But now I didn't have anything to cope. I didn't have the food to cope and I didn't have my weight to hide under. It was just me against the world. And so then I had always had anxiety, but this anxiety came on like nobody's business after. Wherever you go, there you'll be. That's what I learned. And actually, Eckhart Tolle, who Kyle and I like read his book, The Power of Now, and we've watched lots of his YouTube videos. That's what he says. And you know, it's really the truth. And so what happened was, after I lost the weight, that insecure little girl was still there and all of the real problems were uncovered. And so after losing the weight, you know, I went through this anxiety, and because I didn't have anything to cope, I actually started developing like this obsession with chewing gum because I didn't have anything to cope with anymore. Then I worked through that, and the last couple of years, Kyle has a very similar story to mine, from childhood on, pretty much identical. And we've both spent the last 2+ years working through those problems that were uncovered by building our own frame, meaning learning to do what we want from who we are instead of trying to people please, trying to stand our ground and not say yes or be nice when we should really be standing up for ourselves, not giving in, trying to get love, but trying to be who we are and being okay if somebody agrees or doesn't agree with us. And, you know, it's tricky sometimes, but it's worth it. It is scary, but what I'm learning is the more you sit with the scary, just like I had to sit with being hungry when I was working through my emotional eating and not using food to cope, the more you sit with the scary, it's still scary, but it's a little easier to sit with it. And Kyle and I were talking about this story the other day, and it came up today. And as I was thinking about doing this video, and so this is such a weird thing, but like most people, we have so much fear about stuff, about judgment from other people, lots of different fears. But for some reason, most of us love haunted houses. Most of us love watching horror movies and being scared at them. But then other fear is scary. So I was thinking about a time like years and years ago, Kyle and I went to this haunted house. It was really scary. And we both went in, and I love haunted houses, but I can't look in them. I was like this. Behind Kyle, I had my head buried in the back of his shirt, and it takes pictures in this haunted house. And when we got the picture, which we didn't buy, and Kyle was joking that he wished he would have bought it.
That was the biggest regret of my life, that I didn't buy that picture.
But the point is, I went in to face the scary, but I couldn't open my eyes. And that's how I've done most of life. I've gone through a lot of trauma, and I'm very strong, and I can go in and face the situation, but I'll close my eyes, meaning I'll shut down. I'll use food to cope. I'll get stuck in my head. I'll be here and look like I'm here, but I'll be living in my head to avoid things that are scary.
Both of us too sometimes, all the time overthink, and then we overplan, and that's all the same thing as we used to do with food. It's to really cope with, I gotta be prepared, or I gotta make sure people like me. I gotta make sure I'm good enough.
Yes.
Instead of, like Nicole's been saying, facing the scary is, what if they don't like you? And
yes.
What if it's not about your weight anymore? What if it's they don't like your opinion, they don't like your looks, other than your your weight that they used to judge you for? So those are the facing the scaries. And we also realize you can't please everyone.
Yeah.
They're never not going to yell at you. Somebody's going to have a problem with you. It doesn't matter if you're perfect, which none of us are, but even that wouldn't please most people.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the funny thing, like, I was judged for my food when I was overweight. Now, because I do YouTube, I'm judged for my food now. So it's like, I have to be okay with just eating the way that I eat and getting judgment for it. Or like, dress, if I like to dress a certain way, if somebody doesn't like it, or if somebody just doesn't like me, I have to learn to be okay with that. And, I've talked about this a lot, so I'll just briefly say, like, I had a rough childhood, and one of the things out of the many, my dad fully left my life when I was 10, but he was never really around. And a lot of my life I've spent trying to get people not to leave. I have to be okay with that now and realize that that wasn't on me that my dad left. That just because that happened, that doesn't make me a bad person. That's not on me. I have to be okay with people doing what they do. My dad has his own struggles. That has nothing to do with me. And so what I've been doing is keeping this note on my mirror so that I see it every morning. You don't have to be a fixer, because that's what I do when Kyle and I call it falling asleep. Like when we forget who we are and we start acting like the people pleasers again, I'll start to fix things. So like, I'm gonna be honest here, like I get really nervous before I film every YouTube video, even though I've been doing it for almost 10 years now. And so sometimes I'll like repeat what I'm gonna say in my head, and it ends up coming out robotic, and I don't mean for it to be, but I get so worried about people pleasing and being accepted that I stop talking like Nicole. So I'm really working on talking like Nicole in the video and not repeating the words in my head. And I've never shared that with you guys before. I've been like, embarrassed about being judged, but I'm really working on being okay with being judged. And so that's the truth. I get bad anxiety, but I do it anyway because it's important for me to hold my frame and just be okay with being me. And so I hope that helps anyone struggling. And another thing that I want to say is like, I'm 41, and I started really being awful to myself at like 5 years old. So I spent decades putting myself down, putting myself through like the most punishing weight loss journey over and over again, treating myself so bad in my head all day for hours, like even when I'm sleeping. And I wish every day that I could take it back, but I can't. I can't go back into the past and take it back. I can only start now with where I'm at. And I keep trying to remind myself, like, losing the weight and working through my emotional eating were two very big steps at loving myself and actually just letting myself be Nicole. And now I feel like I'm in another gear. Kyle and I were talking about, like, we're kind of going into like third, and then there's like a fourth gear that we haven't quite reached yet because we're just working on being ourselves, but we're gonna get there. And I feel like I'm in third gear right now. I feel like I'm getting close to really letting all of Nicole shine. And if your story is similar to ours, if you're using your weight to hide, or maybe you didn't realize until you watched this video, or maybe you're not, but you're struggling with losing weight, I wish that I could go back into the past and tell Nicole, or show her pieces of what my life is like now, and tell her, like, you don't know what you're capable of, and you're worth it, and you can do this. You're strong. You're stronger than you think you are. It's going to be scary. It's not going to be perfect. You're still going to have stuff. You're going to have struggles every day still, but you can do it. And please make it easier on yourself. Eat what you like. Don't go for the quick fix. It's just going to backfire. I wish I could tell myself that, but I can't, so I'm telling you. So to sum this up, if you're looking on social media and you're wishing that you could trade lives with other people because you think that, they've got it figured out, no one's got it figured out. Everyone has struggles, and oftentimes they keep them to themselves and only show what they want to the world. So remember, there are lots of things about you that you actually love about your life, about yourself, and focus on those things. And also remember that, yes, life is difficult for everyone. There are lots of challenges, but there is hope, and it can get better. There's always going to be something, but remember who you are in this process and take your life back one moment at a time. And if it's starting because, you want to lose weight, start with eating things that you like. If you don't like what you're eating, you won't stick to it. And then look at the bigger reasons why you are using food. Remember, you're strong enough to face them. I lost my weight with portion control. If you want to know the exact portions and meals that I ate to lose the weight, I have a weight loss ebook. It's called The First 50. The link's down below, and code Nicole will save you 10% off. And if you're looking for a good protein powder, like, protein helps you feel fuller longer, and when you're trying to lose weight and you're in a calorie deficit, it is normal to be hungry. So this is like HTLT Steps. It's a whey casein protein powder, and maple cookie is one of my favorites because it's really versatile and you can put it in everything. I really love making Greek yogurt bowls, putting a scoop of this in like half a cup of Greek yogurt, and then topping it with like kids cereal because that's my favorite, and some fruit. Code Nicole will save you 15% off, and the link is down below, and there's a ton of other really cool flavors too. Weight loss should never be a punishment. You are beautiful inside and out, and you do not have to hide under a costume. I love you. I'll see you in the next vid. Peace out, bud. See ya. Remember, the friends, that weight loss isn't just about the number on the scale. It's also about here and here. Heart and mindset. Fight through it. You can do it.